Hey, today is going to be a pretty simple, straightforward video. I'm going to show you how to write unit tests in Rust. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is cargo init our project. Make sure you have Rust installed, make sure you have cargo installed before beginning this tutorial. First things first, we go to our terminal. I am on Linux Ubuntu, but you can do this in Windows as well. And then we do cargo init, and we're going to call our project unit test tutorial. And when you run that command, it will initialize the project for us and set up a Rust project for us without us having to do anything. Once you've initialized your project, open it up in your IDE. I'm using VS Code. Unit tests in Rust are very straightforward. A lot of languages you have to use different plugins or different packages, libraries. In Rust, it's built into the source library, so you can just write your tests straight away. And you can also write them in the same file. You could create a separate folder and structure for your tests if you need to, but in most cases, just for small unit tests, you can write them in the same file that you've written your actual code. How do we get started? Well, first we need something to test. I decided I'm going to test a simple weight converter. Okay. And this is the formula we're going to want our function to use. So we're going to want to convert our pounds to kilograms. And that is pretty straightforward. This is the formula. So 1 kilogram equals 1 pound multiplied by this number. So we're going to use test-driven development style here for this video. So we're going to write our test first and then write our function. First things first, we just need to do a little compiler flag to tell the compiler this is our test section. And then we're going to have this module called tests. So it's like its own little module. And then we want to use the crate that we're in. So we're just going to do use super and then just everything. And now we write our actual test. So you have to make sure you put this little attribute on top called test so it knows this is the test. Because you're also able to write normal functions in the test module as well to kind of help you with your testing, which I'll talk about in a minute. So we're going to write our weight converter test, or let's call it pounds to kilo test. And then in here we're going to use a macro. So a lot of testing in Rust can be done through this very useful assert equals macro. And basically what it does is it takes in two values, so let's say 1, and then another value, let's say 1 as well, and it compares them, and it checks if they're equal. And if they're equal, it will pass. If they're not equal, it will fail. So if we just go ahead with that then, oh yeah, it's complaining because I haven't defined it as a function. There we go. So now to run, so this is a simple test that just compares 1 and 1. And we can actually run that if we do, I think I'm already in the folder. No, I am not. Unit test tutorial. Okay, and from our folder then we can run cargo test. And this will run all the tests in our program. So here we can see that our test result is 1 passed, because these two values are equal. And if we make them not equal, it will fail. There you go, failed because the two values left and right are not equal. All right, let's get to the more interesting part. Let's actually start writing our functions. So first of all, we want to write, let's say let kilo equal 1.00. Oops. So that's 1 kilo. And that's our first value. And now we want 1 pound. So we do pound equal 1.00. And this is our pound value. And now we want to convert our pound to, sorry, actually this is wrong. So we want our kilo to actually be this. So we want 0.45 as our kilo value, and our pound value to be 1.00. When we convert this pound, 1 pound, it's going to be this amount of kilos. So now we have to write the function to actually convert this pound value. So right now they're not equal because the pound hasn't been converted yet. Okay, the naming of these variables is probably not the best, but ignore that. The more important part is testing the function. So Alright, this is our pounds to kilo function. And it's going to return an F64 like these values are, or that we want them to be. And we're going to take in our pounds value. And it's going to be an F64 as well. Basically, we're going to want to apply this conversion. So all we have to do is pound multiplied by this value here. And the return is implicit, so we don't have to write return or anything. And then what we do is we want to test that function, so we go pounds kilo test, and then we pass in our pound value. And now these two values should be equal. If we were to run this test, we should see that this will now pass. Oh yeah, I made the same mistake again and forgot to declare it as a function. Here we go. Remove this test bit. Okay, now if we run our test, this should pass. There you go, it passed. Because it's converting this to kilos. And you can see that here if we add it to the print line. We can actually print out this value. So if we do pounds to kilos and then pass in 1, you can see that this function actually it will print that out. Cargo run if you just want to run your project and not test it. There you go. It's printing it out and that's the value we're getting. With this testing as well, so that's basically unit testing. It's very easy in Rust. You just throw it in at the bottom of your code, write your test and write your function and off you go. You could put this into a separate folder and all that, as I've mentioned. Another thing you can do as well is you can add functions in your test folder. So you could say like create kilo function. So let's say you don't actually want this functionality as part of the main program, but it's just something to help your testing. So you could have this create kilo function that all it does is return a kilo. So pounds to kilo value, whatever. And then you could just say it just returns this value, and then you could use that in here. And then we don't need this anymore. It's just an example that this is just available to this test module and you're just using it for testing. So it's not actually a test function. For it to be a test function, you'd have to put this on top of it and do some asserts. And now we will run this. Oh, what does cargo run? Cargo test. And you can see it still passes. What you could do is you could change this value and then we see it doesn't pass because they're no longer equal. And what you could do here, let's say you want to compare two not equal values, you can just change this from assert equal to assert not equal. And there's lots of these macros in Rust for different kind of testing. You can look this up. So there's assert not equal, assert equals, then there's just assert if you just want to assert something like a boolean. So if we cargo test this, it should pass again even though they're not equal. There you go, because we have changed this to assert not equal. One other useful thing, if you're using Visual Studio Code, you can get this extension called Code LLDB, and it's a debugger that you can use in Rust. And one thing it does is it adds this little run test function on top of your unit test. So if you're looking at some code and you just want to quickly run the test, you can click this and it will run it in the terminal, and it'll do the exact same thing as cargo test. I think you can also, you should also be able to just run particular tests. So just want to run one test and not all your tests, you could put the name of your test in the cargo test command and it will just explicitly run that one single test. So if we were to put in another test here, one is 1, and then there's just like this set equals 1 1. So now we have 2 tests, and if we do cargo test, it will run all the tests for us. So 2 tests pass, but then we can do this, run that one test, and it will filter out the other test that we didn't explicitly mention. That's it. Super simple. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like, subscribe. Be posting some other stuff again soon. All right, bye.